Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's video should be a pretty brief one. This is just, I wanted to talk about sales, specifically like Black Friday and holiday sales. As we're moving into this time of year, we're gonna be seeing lots of sales, lots of promotion, and lots of push to buy things. And I wanted to come down here, sit for a few minutes and just talk about some of the ways I try to avoid buying things I don't need, and maybe some of the ways that you might be able to avoid buying things that you don't actually need or want. And if you're new here, welcome. My name is Colin. I'm a non-binary Latinx scientist and lover of makeup with a definite soft spot for indie makeup and high-end makeup, which can both be very expensive. And I tend to take a pretty analytical approach to the content I make, be it, reviewing a new product or using things I already know and love. And I just try to make thoughtful, analytical content, and I have new videos every week, so I'd love to have you subscribe. Okay, so I'm not going to be applying any makeup during this video. If you are interested in what I'm wearing, it's kind of my standard go-to products lately. I'll have them in the description box. But I am trying out a new thing. Surratt sent me some of their new souffle eyeshadows. And so I do have one of those on my eyes. But everything will be in the description box if you are curious. So it is early November, and we're already starting to see Black Friday sales stuff go up. I mean, even I just filmed a video going over some products that were sent to me in PR. That should be going up before this video. And, they're having a sale, I mention it, but I always like to preface in my videos, like, I'm not trying to pressure you into buying anything. I don't buy something just because I like it. I don't want this channel to ever be a run, don't walk situation. I personally really hate that phrase, and mostly no judgment to the people who use it, but I just don't enjoy that phrase. For this whole channel, I buy new things all the time, I'm reviewing things all the time, but I'm also working within a very small set budget every month. So I'm not spending that much, and I'm constantly not buying things that I want. I see things that I want to buy almost every day, and I don't. And it's hard. There are a lot of pretty things that I would love to try, but I just have to remind myself, no, I don't actually need that, or I can wait for a sale or something like that. So there's no judgment. I do want to preface this. There's no judgment if you spend a lot of money during Black Friday and during these sales, or if you overspend, or if you splurge. Like, I might splurge a little. I don't know. There are a couple things I might get this season, but we're humans. We're not perfect. The reason I say this is because there is so much shame around overspending, and there's so much judgment. There's so much talk about conscious consumerism, which I have always tried to do myself, but we're seeing more and more. But you also see a lot of people, as a response to that, also shaming people who do consume a lot. And shame doesn't help anything. Shame doesn't fix anything. Shaming people for buying things isn't going to make them not buy it, generally. There are exceptions to anything, but So we're still early enough in November that I don't know details from most Black Friday sales yet, but they're often going to be 30, 40, 50% off for good ones. Some brands, especially expensive brands, don't do that much off, and that's one of the bullet points that I have here. So I'll actually start with that. So some brands don't really do sales very often, and this might be the one sale they do a year. And for me, I will probably buy a handful of things from Victoria Beckham. I have 2 things from them, really enjoy one of them, kind of enjoy one, and I want to try some more. I know I want them, have picked the shades, have been thinking about it, and have wanted them for at least 3 or 4 months, if not longer, for some of these items. So I'm going into the sale being like, okay, I know they're going to have a 20% sale. That's when I'm going to buy it. I know what I'm going to buy. I'm not going to go over that. But we do see a lot of brands start coming sale after sale after sale. I mean, not like the Pat McGrath sale after sale. This is, post after post after post about sales and this new sale and this new sale. And it can be overwhelming, and it can feel like, oh, well, they're having 30% off, I should go look. And that's the thing that I want people to avoid. Seeing something mean like, seeing a brand say, hey, we're having a 30-40% off sale, and then say, well, I guess I'll go look at what they have. That's where we get into a dangerous spot, and we intend to buy things we weren't planning on buying. So if you see a brand that you know has had products you wanted to try, I know a few people in my audience have said, in my community have said, like, they're waiting for the Nomad Black Friday sale because there's some stuff from Nomad they want. And like, I'm doing the same kind of thing, not with Nomad because they send it to me, but like with other brands. Like, I know they're gonna have a Black Friday sale. Mentally preparing my list of like 2 sales that I'll probably shop, and I'm just waiting for them. It's when we start seeing, like, especially when you're on Instagram a lot or you're on YouTube and people are talking about, ooh, look at this brand sale, ooh, look at this brand sale. It's really easy to get caught up in being like, oh, well, let's see what they have. And then suddenly you've spent $100. So my reminder, anytime you think you're about to spend something or you're about to just like go blind shop on something, is pause and be like, do I actually need this? Do I actually want this? One thing I do is I think, okay, it's X, like it's an eyeshadow that has, let's say it's an eyeshadow palette with 12 shades, and it's this, the vibe is this, like the new Unearthly Cosmetics Sorcerer's Smoke palette. It's like a cool, it's like a green, earthy, toned palette. It looks beautiful. I really want it. I really, really want it. And if there was a good enough sale, I might buy it, but depending on my budget and stuff. But like, every time I see a post about that and I think, oh, I really want that, I just think, okay, what green palettes do I have? I have the Odin's Eye Stone and Rock palette. I have Natasha Denona Yucca. I have the Nomad green palette. I have a couple others. I'm like, okay, instead of buying another green palette, maybe I'll just go use one of those, go swatch it, go open it and just look at it. Sometimes just opening the palette and looking at how pretty it is like enough to satisfy that. And then the other thing that I see a lot this time of year is bundles. And it's like, bundles can be great if it's a bunch of things that you want, but if you're going to buy one thing and then you want to buy a bundle of 5 things, like maybe you were going to buy one $40 item, but they have a bundle for 5 for $120. And you're like, well, that's a great deal. I'm getting them all at such a discount. I'm like, but do you need all 5? Do you want all 5? Were you planning on buying, like, just always take that little pause and be like, do I need this? Do I have this? Do I already own this in a different brand? That's the thing that helps me not buy things the most, is I have something similar enough, I can hold off. I might want it, I might still really want it in 6 months or a few months and buy it still, but or you know, wait for a sale like I am now. But like, do I actually want it? Do I actually need it? Another thing that you see a lot is BOGO sales. Like Natasha Denona does a lot of like buy one, get one free. That can be a really great deal if they're 2 things that you want. Like Pat McGrath also has kind of a buy one, get one free right now, where they have a 30% off sale and like sets of eyeshadow, like sets of Mothership palettes. So you get 2 Mothership palettes at a discount, then the 30% is stacking on top of that. So you're basically paying like $80 per Mothership, which is a great deal. But do you want both of them? Are you gonna use both of them? Like, I keep looking, seeing that Mothership 2, which is one of the ones I don't have and I still want, is in a couple of those bundles, but they're paired with a palette I already own. Or there's like one I want, but one I don't want. And at that point, yeah, you're getting the one you want at a discount, but you're also buying something that you don't need or don't want. So BOGO sales can be great. Like for Natasha Denona, the only 2 MIDI palettes I don't have are Retro Glam and the new Xenon palette. And I really like the Xenon palette. I wear black smoky eyes to work pretty common, like a grungy charcoal smoky eye fairly regularly. But I want those shimmers. And Retro Glam is taupes and kind of olivey tones, which I really love. but Retro Glam is fairly pale. Like, I swatched it in the store and it didn't work perfectly with my skin tone. And Xenon is grayscale, and there's like 3 fairly light gray shades that are all gonna look pretty similar on a lot of people. Neither of those are worth $70 for me, so I haven't bought them. But for a BOGO sale, you're paying $70 for both, you're paying 30 something for each. Maybe that's worth it. And that's one of the sales I'm not 100% on that still. But like that kind of instance, like let's say you have all the Natasha Denona mini palettes. They're doing buy one, get one free on all palettes or something, but you have to buy one of equal or lesser value. So then all of a sudden you're looking for something else to buy. And then maybe you end up picking one of her $130 palettes, and you're paying $130 for that one and you're getting the $70 one for free. Now you've paid twice what you would have normally. Like, it just, the math doesn't work. The excitement of the sale overrides the actual part of your brain where you're like, wait, I'm actually spending more than if I just bought the palette by itself. So always take that step back and be like, hey, do I need this? Am I buying something that I actually want? And part of this is FOMO. Like, I know I don't really feel FOMO very often, and I've talked about this on the channel before, and it's probably an autistic thing, but I know FOMO is a big deal. So I know my friend Steven, they experience FOMO a lot, and they have to like sometimes take breaks from social media. They were off Instagram for like a week or two because it was like sale, 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 and they were just like, nope, I'm gonna buy something and I don't want to. And I think that's a good thing. If you're consuming a lot of social media and it's just all pushing you to stop, maybe take a break and go for a walk, or don't watch any, like get off Instagram for a day. Like those little pauses can like rewire your brain to be like, maybe I'm not as like intrigued by all these ads that I'm getting. Cause I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like Instagram is like especially sponsored post and especially ad heavy the last, I don't know, a few months, but it's just getting progressively more so. Another sale that I know is coming up and is Odiney. They do a decent Black Friday sale, and they're also just launching their Christmas things. And I see a lot of hype. Those actually, the new Christmas palettes might be going up. I don't know when I'm gonna post this. I might post this the day those are launching. Those are really pretty. I'm gonna skip them. I don't need them. They're very pastel heavy, and they each have like a few shades that are too pale and too light and too similar to each other. I'm not really a pastel person. I have the Natasha Denona pastel palette and then a handful of pastels and other things. And like, I'm good. I don't need any more. And like, when you see those, like there's a lot of hype around the new Odiney palettes because they're restocking last year's that people have been begging them to restock since last November. When they sold out and people couldn't get them around Christmas. And if you've wanted last year's Christmas palettes since last year, I say get them. I love those palettes. If you can afford it, do it. You've been waiting a whole year. I think they're great. They might be my favorite 2 Nomad or Odiney palettes, but you might also then see like, oh, they have a bundle with all 4 or something, or you might be on the website, you're buying them, and there's the hype of the old palettes returning and the hype of like, ooh, something new, and you just blindly buy the new ones. And like, before you did, like actually look at the colors. Do you like the color stories? Do they make sense to you? Will you use them? Do you like pastels? Because they're like winter pastels. Like, are you gonna use those this winter? If so, do you have wintry pastels you're gonna use instead? Like, that's what I think can help a lot, is just being like, again, pause, do I need this? And I know I mentioned this before, but shame doesn't help anything. So if like, let's say you accidentally buy something, you're like, I probably shouldn't have bought that. Just shrug it off and be like, I shouldn't have bought it, but I did it, let's move on. Because I think sitting in that shame and feeling bad about it can make you feel worse. And then you want that dopamine hit of like a reward. So then you end up buying something else. And it ends up being a vicious cycle. So just being like, I didn't need to do that, but I did it. Move on, we're done, let's keep going. I think that's another, like, not shaming other people, but also not shaming yourself. Like, don't shame yourself thinking it'll fix things, because generally it doesn't. And then the last two things I have on my little bullet point are things that people mentioned on my community tab. And they were brush sets and then like random cheap items. So brush sets. Brush sets are hard. I have bought them in the past and I try not to buy them now because generally I find they have two, let's say it's a five or six brushes. Generally like 2 to 3 are things that I want and I will use and I end up using a lot. And then there's 2 to 3 that just sit there and I don't really use because the shape is just like not quite right. And it's hard. Brush sets are nice because they're like, look, you get all of these brushes for a discounted price. And then, you know, right now we're having sales on them, like Sigma does them. I know Sonia G does them. I'm trying to think of who else. Yeah, Sonia G, Wayne Goss, BK Beauty, Sigma, they all do brush sets. They're all launching new things. Do you need them? Like, personally, I almost bought a bunch of Sonia G brushes recently, and I was like, no, I do want some more. I will wait and buy a couple later. Do I need this whole set? Am I going to use this whole set? Like, if you're just starting out, I mean, I think Sonia G brushes would be a great starting out point. You wouldn't, you know, but like, do you know what brushes you like? Do you know what type of brushes you like? Do you know what shapes you like? So it's kind of hard to be starting out at like $150 set of brushes, but it's, do you need all of those brushes or will you use all of them? So like, I know I bought a set from Sigma before. I bought, back in the day when I first started, I bought like a Morphe set. I bought the Odiney set. I don't even like those brushes. I have had to throw away a couple because they fell apart. Do you need all of the brushes and will you use all of them? Because let's say you're spending $60 and you're getting 12 brushes. I'm just picking random numbers. Do you need all 12 brushes or would you be happier maybe still spending $60, but spending $60 on 3 brushes that you really like? Like you were like, I really know I want that one, and that one. Maybe just buy those ones, especially if they're still on a discount. Like Sonia G wouldn't be right now because they're Beautylish, but like, you know, Sigma or something. Do you want just those 3 Sigma brushes at a discount versus the whole bunch that you're not going to really use, and then you have to wash them and you have to store them and you're spending money just to have brush clutter at that point. So I think if you see a set, if you're really intrigued by a set of brushes, pause and look at each individual brush, see which ones of those you actually want, write down the ones you actually want, and then maybe buy those versus the whole set. The only time I really ever end up, let's say it was like I wanted 4 of the 6 and it was cheaper to get the set than just the 4, then I might buy it, and I have. But like Singe Beauty, I really want to try their brushes. Angelica's brushes look great, but I've looked at the pictures, I've looked at the shapes, and I know there's really 2 that I want to try, and they're only sold as a set, so I'm just waiting. She said they'll be singles eventually. I can buy them then. There's no urgency, they're not going away. I can buy the 2 that I want when they're available as singles later. I don't need to buy the whole set when I know some of those shapes aren't shapes that I really want to use. I mean, I might end up liking them, but like looking at them, I don't want them. The last couple things, I actually just saw another post on that community page. So the one I mentioned before, the random splurge super discount item. So like I know Sephora does this a lot, like you're checking out and they're like, hey, this item's only $5 and it's super cheap. Do you want to buy that? Or like you're at Sephora and you're walking through the little like cheap, the like small sample size items. Those are there to get you to spend more money. Those are there to, like, especially Sephora, you're waiting in line, you buy all these little things. They're meant to be like, well, I'm bored standing here, let's look at this. Oh, that's pretty, let's grab it. And you can end up spending dozens of extra dollars, like 20, 30, 40, 50 extra dollars on just random shit that you didn't plan on buying just because you were there and it was cheap. So I like for me, when I'm at a store like that, I'll like glance, but I generally try not to pick anything up unless it's like, oh, I've heard about that. I want to pick it up and look at what it looks like in person. I'll sometimes do that, but generally I just try to avoid, like, I'll glance and be like, that's it. Eyes raised, don't look. And online, like, I was adding stuff to my cart earlier on a website because I thought there was a sale already starting, but then there was no, so I was like, let's see if I add it to the cart, if the discount shows up, and it didn't. So I was like, well, I'm gonna wait. And it was like, hey, here's another product you might want. Are you sure you don't want to add this? I always just say no. If I didn't already have it in my cart, I do not want it. Doesn't matter how cheap of a discount it is. I don't need it. I don't want it. Like, if I already wanted that, it probably would already be in my cart. And I think that's the like the mindset and like the little mantra to say to you, like, if I already wanted it, it would already be in my cart. No. And I just hit X and I leave. And well, I check out with the couple items I was going to buy. But I do know that can be something that gets a lot of people. And so, you know, it's nice to pause and just be like, do I actually, if I actually wanted this, I would probably already have it in my cart. So I don't need it, and move on. And I think the back to I don't need it, no, it's just like what I say in my head. I don't need it, it's fine now. And the last thing that I just saw a comment about, they commented, the upcoming Divina release or any multi-chrome heavy indie release in sales, that's hard. I have skipped out on a lot of those sales because I don't use my indie singles as much. I mean, I use them, but I don't give them enough love to warrant buying more. So like for the Divina sale, like she's about to have a Black Friday sale, and I think that's great. It's the best time to try buying from Divina. And they're launching their first ever palette, and I'm very, very excited for them. I talk to the brand over periodically on Instagram, very happy for her. But do you like the color story, or are you just excited that it's their first palette? Like for me, I looked at it and there's 2 shades in there that I was like, that's really pretty. I need to see swatches and stuff. And I like the packaging, the unicorn, it's pretty. I like it. But then I look at the colors and I'm like, do I actually want this? Will I actually use this enough to justify it? Like, I don't know. Personally, I'm still on the fence and trying to decide. I need to see the swatches, especially because it's a doorbuster sale and it's like $45 instead of $75. Those are meant to get you to be like, hey, do I want that? And I'm still personally deciding. I probably won't, based on just looking at it. It's pretty. I think it's really pretty, but I don't need it. And I think that's a thing I fall back to a lot, is that's really pretty. I like that. I don't need to own it. I don't need to own all the pretty things. I can't own all the pretty things. And like Terra Moons is gonna have a sale, I'm sure. Cleona is probably gonna have a sale. And every time there's a Terra Moon sale, I get messages saying like, ooh, what are you gonna buy? And I'm like, nothing. I already put it away. I had my Terra Moons palette out. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 14. I probably have like 30 something to 45 Terra Moons shades, at least. And I love them. They're my favorite indie brand, like single shadow brand. And I love those. But I'm not someone who has pan in a bunch of them. I'm not someone that reaches for those every day. And there's a bunch of them that I've only used like once or twice. So those shadows are expensive. Some of them are like $15 a piece, $18 a piece. I don't know. Like the Cleona ones are like $20 or $18. Have I used it enough to warrant that $20, $15 price tag? Even at a discount, let's say it's $10. Have I used them enough? No, I haven't. I want more Divina shadows. There's a bunch that I really want. There's more Terra Moons I want. I really want to try some more Cleona. I want more Glaminatrix. Glaminatrix is easier to skip because it's international, and then I see the $15 shipping, and I'm like, But do you, this video is ending up longer than I thought it would be. Do you need them? Do you have something that's similar? do you use your singles enough? I know Hope Mess Tom has talked about that a lot, where they were like, I wasn't giving my singles enough attention. That's why they started the single spotlight thing that they do on their Instagram and their channel. Are you using them enough to warrant buying more of them? That's kind of the same with like things like red lips. Like, let's say someone like launched a new red lipstick. Be like, oh, that's really pretty, but I already have like 4 red lips and I wear a couple of them pretty regularly, but like, do I need a 5th? No. It's the same kind of thing. And I think with special shifty shadows, because it's like, ooh, this one shifts slightly different than this one, we get hyped up in that I want to collect them all. They're all slightly different. And I love nuance. I will say, like, people will be like, these 2 shadows are the same. And I'm like, no, that one's a little more gray. That one's a little more this. Like, I appreciate color theory and nuance, but that doesn't mean I need to own all of the nuance. I just can't possibly do it. It's too much money, it's too much space, it's too much time, and then I just have empty palettes or magnetic palettes filled with single shadows that I'm not using. I do use them, and I have been working on using them more this year, but until I like make a point of using every one of my single shadows at least a few times, I don't want to add any more to that, because then I'm just exponentially growing a collection that I'm not using. So I think when you see the Divina, the Terra Moons, the Cleona, the Glaminatrix, when you see all of these, I'm trying to think of other, there's Glam Shop has singles. I'm trying to think of brands that have singles. When you see all of these single releases coming out, it's like, do you use yours enough to justify this? That's what I want you to ask yourself. And if, let's say, you do, then like, try to be like, because a lot of the time the brands are releasing similar shades. Like, do you have the same shade from another brand? Like, go and look, swatch, try to compare, see if you do. And I think that's one thing. Like, places like Steven has basically every Terra Moon shadow. Seeking Shifts has basically all the like Terra Moon, Shine by SD, all of those. Millie, Bad to the Brow. They're really great resources to do comparisons, which I really love them for, because they have them all, so they can swatch them. They swatch them side by side, and you can actually see like, oh, that one's basically the same as that one. I don't need both. I already have that one. I'm good. And if you start getting tempted to like splurge on a whole bunch of singles, like, look at those resources, look for those side by side comparisons. Seeking Shifts and Millie, Bad to the Brow do have a lot of content like that. Look at those and try not to dupe your own collection, and I think that can help you save quite a bit of money. Okay, so I thought this would be like a 15-minute video, but I've been talking for half an hour, so I'm gonna end that here. If you have any other tips that you yourself use to like not impulse buy and not like regret buy things during sales, let me know. Let the group know in the comments. I think the comments and talking to each other can be a really great way to talk each other out of things and help each other stay informed. So leave any comments for any advice you have or any techniques you have to avoid overspending. And yeah, I hope everyone's having a good week. I hope as we're moving into the holiday seasons, everyone's having good holidays, everyone's having fun. Make sure you spend time with your family and your friends. That's what, my favorite part of the season is spending time with my chosen family and friends. As always, thank you so much for watching. Remember to like and subscribe. It really, really helps, and I'll see you in my next video.